We are recording, and welcome, Mr. Beneil Dariush. How are you, sir?
Good, and yourself, brother.
Doing good, brother. Doing good. So let's get right into it, brother. Where do we start? As I always say, where do we start on the journey, the path towards where you are today?
Oh, that's that's a that's a good question. Well, I'm Assyrian, but Assyrians don't have a country exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I was born in Iran. Came to America when I was about 9 years old, and at the age of 18, I started doing jujitsu. From
Okay.
jujitsu, I transitioned to MMA, and now I'm in the UFC, and that's the shortest version I have.
All right. Let's try to lengthen that out and go into detail. I want to try to get at least like 30, 45 at least. 18 jiu-jitsu, that's your first encounter with MMA, with any sort of excuse me, that's your first encounter with MMA, with any sort of fighting, anything like that.
Correct. The reason why I started doing jiu-jitsu was because I got to wrestle for like a month in high school. The
Okay.
year was pretty much over. A friend of mine said, "Hey, come try the wrestling. It's pretty fun." I said, "Okay," and it just kind of escalated. I was like, "I really like this. I'm going into college. I don't want to get lazy. I don't want to get out of shape." And I decided to do jiu-jitsu, and um, started progressing quickly, and my coaches thought it was a good idea to compete, so I started competing, and I started winning, and winning turned into a snowball effect,
Okay.
and everything got bigger.
Nice. Now with you given that 1 year in high school, what are we talking about geographically? When you moved over here, you said at 9 when you moved over here, were you straight into SoCal? I know you're in SoCal now. Were you always
Yeah,
around here?
I've been in Orange County since I've moved to America. I think I lived in Tustin for a year, and then
Okay.
I was in Yorba Linda after that. I've been in Yorba Linda since then.
Okay. So you get into high school, you try out wrestling for did you see any differences from what you learned that 1 year wrestling? Were you able to adapt that into your newfound love for jujitsu?
I mean, I had a month of wrestling, and all I learned
Oh,
was a double leg. So
okay.
that double leg was really useful in the beginning. I was able to get some takedowns, and then kind of figured stuff out more in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was the one that really kind of opened the doors for me.
Okay. And were you at a specific gym? You don't have to name any names, but you know.
Yeah, of course. I started out at a place called Half Gracie. The coach was Bruno Paulista. I trained with him for a few years before I transitioned over to my current coach, Romo Barao. He's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys ever.
Okay. Yeah, that's I've we have a local Half Gracie over here. I actually think it's turned into something else now, to be honest with you. But I've been there a few times. Pretty good. I liked it. Did you
Are you
feel?
Sean Roberts?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah, I believe
Yeah, we
so.
were teammates. Yeah, we worked together. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, so the reason, for example, he moved over there because he wanted to start a new gym. I moved to Homelo's gym because I was looking for competition. Like, so we all had our different mindsets, and that's why we kind of branched out.
So that's something I really didn't know too much of. Is that what it's like in the industry? Is there gyms that look to just purely for sport and gyms that are looking for competition, accolades and things like that? Did you come across that often?
I would say just 99.9% of gyms are looking for just to have jujitsu and have people come train. They're not really looking for competition. It just the competition part happens naturally, and some gyms have it more than others, and you kind of have to pay attention to who has more of a competition mindset in terms of their training, and you have to make an assessment based on that.
Okay. No, when you chose your gym, was there any sort of thought process to it? Was it a, hey man, I know there's a gym down the street, maybe I just kind of go walk in, check it out?
So Bruno, my old coach, he actually introduced me to Homolo. I used to go train with Homolo at Bob Lou's gym. It's called Bob Lou's Iron Gym.
Yes, sir.
I, I would go there and I would just get smashed by all these guys. But Homolo being the top guy there, he was just such a great example. I thought to myself, if I can train with this guy, why not?
Yeah, I got you. And he was kind of there to kind of guide you through everything and work through that. I know with the training, part of my mindset is knowing that, hey man, you're gonna get beat up, you're gonna get tapped. It's just kind of part of the process, and you just kind of got to learn. I know it does get discouraging at times, but I was lucky enough to have guys who were around me that were real. I don't want to say they were coddling me, but they understood, hey man, he's sort of learning. We're not going to smash him too hard. We're going to let him know it's going to take some work, but we're also going to kind of guide him through. And there were a few times, they would tell me, hey, trap this leg instead, or post here instead of doing this. And as a beginner with these kind of things, it does make you feel a little better.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's just sounds like you had a good atmosphere at your gym. You had good, like a quality gym, basically. But um, I would say the difference with that is as you get to a higher level, you actually start craving more of a iron sharpens iron kind of thing, where you want like the toughest guys in the room, and you want to get smashed, or and you need people who can handle being smashed. It's just a mindset difference. In that same room that I just mentioned, you could have still those nice guys. You just need to know which one's the competition class, which one's the regular class. And I'm not saying don't train in the regular class if you're a competitor, but you have to go into each class with a different mindset. If you're a competitor, you go into the competition class, looking to do your best. You go into the regular class, you help people, you drill your new techniques that you're trying to perfect. You basically try to be a leader in that community, because you're going to help them develop. And then in the future, there might be someone from there who's going to come and help you because they've developed so much.
Okay. And from what I know of you now, outside of the octagon or outside the cage or just outside of training, by far one of the nicest people I've ever met. At that age, when you're getting into it, were you still at that level? Were you coachable? I know how important it is as a student to be coachable. Were you there? Was there any sort of stubbornness, any sort of pushback from you going into this?
It's hard for me to answer. I wonder what my coaches would say. Uh, I felt like I was good at absorbing techniques,
Mm-hmm.
and because I competed so much, I would say, okay, one doesn't work, this one works well. This is mine, this isn't mine, and so I don't know if I was coachable, but I do remember being able to like hold on to a technique, apply it, see if it was for me or not, and then just get rid of it. That was one of the qualities I remember that helped me a lot in jiu-jitsu.
Okay, okay. Now you're getting into the competition level. Uh, what was that feel? What was the thought process, or just your mindset, if you can recall, going into that first tournament? I'm assuming you're around 18, 19 at this time.
Yeah, first tournament I was 18. It was like 3 months after I joined.
Okay. Oh, so this is fresh off of it.
Yeah, first tournament was like right after I joined, and my mindset was like, man, I just started doing this. I don't need to put any pressure on myself. I mean, these guys should win.
Hmm.
It was an okay mindset for a first time, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
It's not my mindset now, but anyways, with that mindset, I ended up going out there, and I had one double leg from wrestling, and I had some jujitsu on how to not get choked out, and I had 4 rounds of just shooting a double leg, trying to pass, sometimes passing, sometimes not passing, and winning the tournament like that. It was not the most impressive tournament, but it was like a kickstart to everything.
Okay. Now, a question that I always ask. I didn't quite get into mixed martial arts when I would have liked to. I would have loved to have just, watched it from the beginning and the Pride days and things of that nature. But in all honesty, I got into it, I want to say, early GSP years. Um, Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen was big for me. I watched Silva fights Damian Maya, and then kind of saw Chael Sonnen. I like the whole trash talking. But one of the things that I talked to friends about who have been in it for a long time, and I've probably said this a bunch of times already, is just the atmosphere of the old days. I get some people saying, how much it was the Wild West, but I get the cool parts of people saying, look, man, you can walk into somebody and meet your favorite fighter. You can walk into a gym and everybody's there because it's not as big as it is today. And even though I don't see it as big as it should be, as big as it is in my head today, I know as a community, it's still fairly on a small level. But what was that like? I mean, you go to Babalu's gym. Did you know somebody? Did somebody introduce you to Babalu? Was it just like again, this is just my local gym?
I did not know Babalu. I met him through my old coach Bruno. He introduced me to him, and I mean, we got along right away. He kicked the crap out of me and realized that, like, I'll keep showing up. So, and that was pretty much it. They liked me just because of that. I was durable, I got beat up and then just said, okay, when we're training again. And that was one of the things that stuck out to them, because it's
Okay.
not like I was going in there and doing great. I was not doing great at all. But, it was just one of those things where you just keep showing up and they say, okay, this kid's getting better. This kid's, tenacious and
Persistence, yeah.
he's useful, basically.
Yeah.
And that was really how I made a relationship with those guys.
Okay, so 18, we win our first jiu-jitsu tourney. Where do we go from there? Did that spark a whole new love? How long until you get into the striking element, and how long until you say, you know what, let's get into MMA, let's start some fighting?
So like we had a Muay Thai class in our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, but it was very TKD oriented. It was not a very strong Muay Thai class.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, I would do that here and there. I was doing it. It was like twice a week. I would train. So I knew how to throw a kick or two, but nothing special.
Was this more of a let's set up for a takedown, let's set up for a grab, let's kind of learn to strike to get clinch distance?
Well, I had no plans of fighting MMA, so it was just another practice for me.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just another practice. It was just another thing that I can do to have fun. I think so. 2007, I started. In 2009, my coach fights an MMA fight. Bruno at the time, he fought an MMA fight, and they had this great idea of having me do the same thing. And in 2007, I was a white belt, but at the end of 2009, I was a purple belt. So
Okay, that's strong. That's a lot. Yeah, that's
yes.
a big
So I
jump in
won
2 years.
I won the white belt worlds in 2008, and I won the blue belt worlds in 2009. And then what happened also was, like, I was competing nogi. So in nogi you can't compete as a white belt. So in
Okay.
nogi, I competed at the blue belt worlds. I won that, and then in purple belt, I competed in nogi worlds, and I won that as well. And I actually placed first in the absolute. So with all that stuff, my coaches thought that it was a good idea for me to do an MMA fight, and I didn't really have experience in MMA, but they got me an MMA fight. And in 2009, like you said, it wasn't as big, so there was no such thing as camo. Camo is the amateur fight,
Yes, sir.
California
Mm-hmm.
Amateur athletics, whatever. I just jumped in, and it just turned out to be a pro fight. So I ended up just jumping in my first fight in a pro fight. I won a split decision. Honestly, could have gone either way. And after that, I said, you know what? I need to get serious about this. So I found the best coach I could, and that was Rafael Cordero.
Definitely. What is a 20-year-old Beneil Dariush walking around at? Like, what weight class are we talking? Are we still, where you're at today?
I was probably like walking around 168. I was 167, 171.
Okay.
And then I fought at 155, but like I was not a big guy. I was just a lengthy kid. I didn't know how to cut weight. I didn't know any of that. But as I got into the UFC, and as I as time passed by, now I walk around 180 to 185 without even trying. If I
Okay.
tried, I think I'd be way heavier.
Okay. Now, what organization are we talking about when we're getting in that first pro?
My first fight was for Respect in the Cage. It was a show. My first two fights, I think I had like 5 fights with them, Respect in the Cage.
Okay. They treat you nicely. I know some of the lower organizations, especially around that time, it was like I said, it's been called the Wild West multiple times to me
Let's
as people are explaining.
let's just call it the Wild West. That's what it was.
Okay,
I don't
all right.
want to go too far into it.
Okay, yeah, well, no, we definitely don't have to. So you did you hear about Rafael Cordero before you decided to go towards him? Was this like I know you said you wanted the best coach. Did you do what research would you even do at this time? The internet's probably pretty new. You know what I mean?
Um, this is how I met Rafael. So I win my first MMA fight, and it was a terrible showing. My coach is getting ready to fight his second fight, and he tells me he's going to go train at Babalu's place. I'm like, all right. I go there. I start, I start unpacking my stuff. I put my backpack in. I see all the guys come in. All these guys like big names. Verdun was there.
Okay.
Jason Mayhem Miller, Babalu, of course, and my coach Bruno. Bruno was a big guy too. He was fighting at 205. Anyways, we show up and Rafael Cordero is there. I introduce myself to everybody and just kind of talk to everybody, and I'm not really sure what's going on. And they're like, oh, we're gonna spar. So these are most of them. Like the smallest guy was an 85er, which was Jason Mayhem Miller. He was not
Okay.
that small either.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he's a big dude. I've seen him.
Yeah, so we had him, and this I was small, and then Master Rafael was the other small guy. We were the two smallest guys. So everybody gets paired up. I get paired up with my coach Bruno. It's more of a warm up round. We start moving around, and I hear next to me, I think it was Fabricio or Babalu. They go down. They go down, and I look over, and I'm like, maybe he got kicked in the nuts or something. I didn't think too much about it.
Okay.
We keep going. We keep going, and then he gets dropped again. I'm pretty sure it was a body shot. So I was like, did that guy just drop Babalu? And whatever. Round two, I think I went with Mayhem Miller, and Mayhem knew I was like kind of fresh, so he didn't like I was a new guy. I didn't know that much. He didn't kill me, which I appreciated. But
Definitely.
during this time, Fabricio Verdum is going with Rafael Cordero, and same thing happens. Fabricio gets dropped, and I think to myself, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, the little guy.
Now I'm starting to freak out a little bit. Fortunately, I have him next round, so I get to figure out what it's all about. If it's if it's true or if it's just in my head. And he ended up being really nice, not going to my head, but all to the body. He dropped me a couple of times to the body. I think it was like 2 knees and 1 push kick, dropping with those. But he never really went hard on my head, which he could have if he wanted to. I'm sure he could have knocked me out, no problem.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, who is this guy? What the heck is going on here? Is he a fighter or what? And then they tell me he's a coach. And then I start researching. I started researching him, and I just found out who he was. And I was like, wow, man, who would have thought that a guy like him is here? What a blessing. So I was like, this is the guy. I'm going to follow this guy. And I chose him as my MMA coach.
Oh, nice. Now, was it an easy transition? One of the things that I believe everybody has something that they can give to you. I'm all about loyalty, especially when it comes to gyms, and I see a lot of fighters who have stuck with the same gym their entire career. But I also see some that, hey man, I'm gonna go do some jiu-jitsu at this gym. I'm gonna get some striking in at this gym. This gym's got solid wrestling. What was that like for you? Was there any pushback from Babalu? I mean, it sounds like they were all kind of friends already.
Well, I didn't train at Babalu's gym. I didn't have a guy that wasn't my main training place. I would just go there whenever Bruno wanted to go there.
Oh, okay, okay. So you never
With
really had a
Bruno,
home.
yeah, what's up?
I said, so you never really had a home gym at the time anyway. You were kind of just there
For
whenever.
MMA? No. I
Okay.
definitely did not have an MMA gym. I had a jiu-jitsu gym at the time with Bruno, and even Bruno would train with Cordero, so it was not an issue. And over the years, King's MMA slowly became my home as I transitioned to MMA, full time. Because I even back then I only did MMA for a little bit. Like I would do it like for part of the year. I would do one fight and I'd be like, all right, I'm done for this year. I don't want to.
Okay.
I want to go back to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. As the coach of Kings Anaheim, one of the head guys there, how do you feel about that? Are you okay with your students moving? We really love the striking program here, but or do you try your best to make sure your gym provides the best of everything, so they don't have to jump around too much?
We provide striking and jiu-jitsu, but
Hmm.
I mean, if you want to go train somewhere else, you're free to do that. I don't think it's an issue. The It's like this: if you're competing and you're fighting, then it might be an issue. You're gonna go jump from one gym to another gym to another gym to another gym. Then who do you know who's your training partner and who
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
gonna fight? That's the
Okay.
issue. Like for example, let's say you train with me, but you also train at 3 other gyms. Are you gonna end up fighting me someday? Like if the fight's offered to you, would you take that fight? That's the biggest issue. But if you're training and you want to go around and you want to learn more, man, more power to you. Why would we get in the way of that?
Okay. Do you take any sort of stance on fighting teammates? And I know some gyms that's off the table. Some gyms are saying, hey, man, it's just part of the game. This is the business that we're in. We can fight and shake hands afterwards.
Yeah, no, I'm not fighting teammates. Yeah, we don't do that. Dos Anjos, Rafael Dos Anjos
Mhm.
was a champion at one point, and
Yes,
I
sir.
was ranked number 7 or number 5, I don't remember. And they kept asking us about it, and I said no. I said if necessary, I'll move up to 170, but I have no interest in fighting.
The fight that Dos Anjos, when he won the belt over Pettis, I was actually at my brother's wedding, and I was so wanting to see this fight. I just knew this fight was going to be such a great fight. I was literally at the reception on my phone, just sitting at a table by myself. Everyone else is going around, and I'm just like, I need to see this fight. This is going to be such a great fight. He put on a just phenomenal performance against at Pettis at the time looked damn near unstoppable. So we get past that. We get into Rafael's gym. Is this Kings at the time, or is it just kind of like a, hey man, we're just getting kind of friends together, like-minded people. We're working towards this.
No, it was Kings. It was
Okay.
Kings. He had other places he was teaching at, but we were basically, it was at Kings. We moved into Kings right away.
Okay. And what age did we get the call? I mean, what age did we get the hey man, they've been watching you, UFC's looking at you, we want to offer you a fight. And when you did get offered that fight, was there a good thought process? Were you a hungry young lion just waiting to get in there and kind of show your stuff off?
I was 20. I was almost 25. I was 24 when I got the call. Mm, but it was like this. We had asked them because I had 6 fights already,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't get local fights anymore. Guys did not want to risk
They don't
their
want, yeah,
record.
I get it, yeah.
Yeah, and the fights I was getting were guys who had horrible records. So even though I was winning, it was not looking impressive for me as far as UFC. So we started emailing or calling the UFC to get a fight, but they they thought I didn't have enough experience, so it was a little bit difficult for a while. I was trying to get a fight, couldn't get a fight. It was like 6 months, and finally someone gets hurt, and I replaced that person. So I became a replacement fighter, and I ended up fighting Charlie Brenneman. I think
The
Jason
Spaniard.
High, yeah, the Spaniard. Jason High was supposed to fight somebody else. I replaced that someone else, and then Jason High got injured, and then Charlie Brenneman jumped in. So it was a crazy rotation, and yeah, that's how I got in. At first, the UFC was not about me. They were like, "You don't have experience. We need more. You need to have some more time," and I just have to go out there and prove myself. And I got the
Okay.
opportunity.
Being that you're more, I mean, you actively fight and you're also actively coaching and helping out. what advice do you give for those guys? I mean, I've heard the stories of, look, man, these guys are just killing people, but it hits a point where no, like you said, no one wants to fight him anymore. That has to get a little bit discouraging, knowing that to get to that next level, you need fights, but you've made such a name for yourself already that no one really wants to fight you. How do you get past that?
I feel like that was a two-part question. So as far as coaching and training, I actually don't coach anymore. I find it very difficult to do both.
Okay.
I can't be a good coach after 2 hard practices and I show up and I try to teach and I'm not mentally there. And I don't think that's fair to my students.
I agree. Yeah.
And then as far as getting the right fights, uh, you really you're gonna need a good manager, or if you're your own manager, you're gonna have to message and email and call nonstop, because if you think about it, these guys have so many people on the list. You've got to find a way to stand out. So you have to find a way to stand out to get the fight you're looking for.
Okay. Definitely. Do you feel that, with the way the industry is now, it's kind of veering off towards more of a business? So would you suggest that, hey, any young fighter look for that manager? And I mean, is there anything really to look for in a manager? Is it just kind of a, hey, man, you just got to trust what they give you and hope for the best?
I mean, it's not hard to look at a manager's record. You look at who he has as a fighter. Has he lost people? Has he gained more people? Where have those fighters gone? What have they done? It's that simple. So like you're it's like you're interviewing for a job and you're the employer. You're checking them out. It's that simple. You just gotta ask the right questions. You gotta look at the right things.
Yeah, you got to stand out a bit. I know with when I decided to honestly do this, um, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I've never been a guy who's been afraid to ask people. I don't want to say I have no shame in it, but I mean, especially now with social media and Facebook, and it's like, look, man, if I can get this guy to look at my comments, or if I can get him to check his DM, one time, it'd be awesome. You were actually, my buddy Adam goes to your gym out there in Anaheim, and I was lucky enough to meet Adam. Big guy, man, but just solid technique, wonderful chin on him. But he kind of told me, hey, man, you should check out my coach Benny. And I'm like, man, I know who you're talking about. Maybe I should look. So as a fan, first to have, someone like you, someone that I look up to, someone that I love to watch, just be so easy to get in touch with and reach out. It does. It means a lot as a fan anyway. You get a lot of people who, um, uh, even with me reaching out for the interviews, I try to make this as convenient as possible for everybody. That's why I'm doing Zoom. But I get left unread a bunch of times, often.
Yeah.
Why?
You have to understand too, for us fighters, it's a difficult situation, because what happens is if we do too many interviews with guys who are up and comers, don't
Mhm.
have a big following, what happens is the bigger media outlets say, well, this guy's doing interviews all over the place, we're not interested.
Okay.
So it's not an issue. A lot of times it's not an issue that a fighter isn't willing, or is a jerk or something like that. It's just we have to look out for we have to listen to our managers. We have to listen to our coaches, and so look out for ourselves sometimes. So yeah,
A little
I've
more
done
of a
small
brand.
interviews. Yeah, I've done small interviews. I've done big interviews, and my management's always telling me like, hey, the smaller interviews you do, the less likely you are to get the bigger interviews. And I get what they're saying, and I understand. So at this point, just sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. You go with your gut.
I definitely appreciate it. So yeah, we're working on nowadays the following is everything. So we're working on getting the following out there. We had some pretty big names coming up. So, but yeah, so we fight Charlie Brenneman, right? That's where we're at. What's next? After that fight, are we looking to get right back in it? I know from what I've been seeing lately, you're kind of just let's go, let's fight, let's fight. Don't want to take too much time off in between.
Yeah, I mean, my first year or first year and a half, I had 7 fights. So it was a really busy year. Um, that was my goal, was to always be busy and just to get better, because I always felt like the more I fight, the better I get as a fighter. But I did start to get injured a little bit more because I was fighting so much, and also the weight cut became a little bit more difficult and heavier on my body, and took a bigger toll. So I started cutting weight less.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, I'm so fighting less because of the injuries. Most of it was injuries, and but the weight cut also was part of it.
Okay. Yeah, I see that often. It's that fine line of, pushing yourself through it all. Weight cuts, I've never experienced one. I've only been told it's one of the worst feelings in the world to have if you're not doing it correctly, if you're not really coached through the whole way. Most of the guys that I talk to are really old school wrestlers. So, they're telling me just horror stories of what they would do, minutes before competition and how that went. But you want to take care of your body. You want to take the least amount of damage possible, but you also, especially right now, you want to keep your name out there. You want to keep the fans knowing who you are. Is there any sort of midway, or is it, hey, we just got to get out there and do what you want to do? Like I said, it's more of a brand. I feel like these days you got to protect your brand, you got to protect yourself. Sponsors are huge for everyone, and the fighters, and it is more or less a brand now. It's becoming more of a business, is from what I see.
Yeah, I think it was always like that. Even in the Wild West days, I don't think people know this, but actually there was a point where sponsorships were way bigger than they are now. So
Oh wow.
it's always been a business. Now it's just the landscape's changing. So it, the idea that it was like it was, go in, shoot first, ask questions later thing is not really true. It was always a business. People always, they say money sees capitalism sees only one color, and that's green. That's basically what it was. Everybody was just trying looking for green, and it's still like that. Now you just have to go around it a little bit differently. You got to use social media and Twitter and all that. So in my opinion, I don't think much has changed.
Do you feel that social media helps out? Being able to brand yourself from the comfort of your own home, in bed. And do you handle your own social media accounts?
I do. I do my own Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Do I think social media helps? I think it,
Double-edged sword.
I think it's a microphone. Like, you can scream louder in it, or you can continue to speak the way you were speaking. So for some people, and that's why you're seeing the landscape change, because you're hearing people scream inside of a microphone a lot.
Mm.
So they're getting more attention that way. So the landscape's changing because of the tool that is social media. People are reacting towards it different.
Okay. Now, what age are we looking at when we decide we want to open up King's Anna? And what was the thought process behind that? Were you, I know at the time, or I know now you say you don't want to coach and fight at the same time. Was this, did you have that itch to coach? Did you have that itch to kind of give your knowledge to the younger generation?
I opened it's been 4 years, 27. I was 27 when I opened up King's MMA in Anaheim.
Mm.
This one was from the Lord. Like, God blessed me so much. One day I got injured, and I couldn't take a fight. I can't remember if it was my spleen or what, or something was going on, and I was I was in the hospital for a day, I think, to make sure I'm not bleeding out or whatever. Anyways, because the fight got canceled, I had to go. I just started doing my regular stuff that I put off, like going to the bank, taking care of bills, things like that. I go to a bank, and I speak to a guy that I had done a seminar with before, and he says to me he's looking to sell his gym, and I was like, what? And he basically, I told him I thought about buying a gym before, and he just looks at me like, I've been thinking about selling my gym, and that was it. It was like
Nice.
that.
Okay.
It was so spontaneous. I knew it was straight from the Lord.
Did any of that take effect to your fighting? Take effect to the first 2 years, I feel like, of opening up a business are always the craziest, the most hectic. They're a little draining on you. Did you find yourself putting more effort into making sure the business is growing, kind of leaving your fight career off on the shelf for just a little bit?
Uh, you know, I don't know if it was so much the business or it was more the injuries, but I did have a little period where I was struggling, and I don't. I just think it was my inability to prioritize and compartmentalize things. That was the real issue. I think a business can do that if you do not set boundaries. So I didn't set the proper boundaries, and it did hurt me, but it wasn't the business's fault. It was my fault.
One of the things I've experienced with just being around gyms, especially MMA gyms in general, the vibe, right? The coaching, making sure you got the right people. I always like to say like-minded people, right? I've been to gyms and met coaches that, and first impression, just seem like just not great people, right? I've been to gyms that kind of made me feel like, hey, you're the new guy. We're not going to really put much into you. We don't really like you too much. Was it hard for you to find that nice demographic, or are you just surrounding yourself with just solid, good human beings?
The gym we originally opened, I wanted to open a gym because my teammates, my two of my best friends, they're like my brothers, Nolan and David. They were hoping to open up a gym. They had the skill set to teach. They had the ability, and they're just great guys. So we opened a gym. The atmosphere is going to be what the coaches set up.
Okay.
So it was the atmosphere at our place is very friendly, very family oriented, and that's because of the coaches. It's that simple. If you go into a gym and you don't feel comfortable there, that's from the coach. The coach dictates all that, and if the coach is not dictating it, that means he's not doing his job as a leader.
Okay. Do you have any sort of I don't want to say motivation, but do you have any what's the word I'm looking for? Any tips for a new gym owner, somebody kind of opening up, things to look out for? I know for me, with my little short stint of looking to trying to open something up with the nonprofit, I think that's how I first met you. It was a lot of, oh man, I didn't know about this, and oh man, I got to worry about this as well. It was more or less kind of learning on the job. So do you have any tips for anybody that's looking to open up? And two-part question: how important is it for an athlete to have something to fall back on? The fighting is there, but there's always, the risk of an injury that could put you out for so long. How important is it for these up and coming fighters to make sure they have something to fall back on?
Yeah. Okay. So the advice I would give is two things. I would say, one, be flexible, because running a business, especially in California, you're gonna get a lot of new things that you weren't expecting. A lot of layers. There's a lot of layers in running a business in California.
Mm-hmm.
And two, you have to learn to delegate. If you think you can do everything by yourself, you're dreaming. This is just not. We're just not in a. It's just impossible to run a business that's for people by yourself. You have to do it with as a group. It has to be corporate. And then, as far as falling back, I mean, I never had any plans to fall back on a gym or anything like that. To be honest, I think when I retire, my plans are to be a missionary. At least for the moment. Maybe that'll change in the future, but I believe that's what I'm going to do.
That's actually one of the things I really admired about you, and I admire that about a lot of these fighters who are openly Christian. And again, with the brand, and kind of you're out there for so many people. Do you feel that sometimes, hey man, there might be a risk of losing fans if I kind of speak out with religion? The fact that you're just so open about it, I've always respected that about you. I'm more of a look, man, this is who I am, and if you like me, then you like me. If not, then that's okay. It's really up to you. But how do you feel about that? That some of that stuff could potentially hurt you as far as fans go, and especially in a business where the fans are pretty much everything.
So I come from a country that if you're a Christian or if you become a Christian, you can be beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
They can behead you for it. So to come here and say, oh, well, you can lose some money over it, whatever. It's
That's
honestly, if that's your, like, if you're afraid of that, if you're afraid of losing money, if you're afraid of this or that, honestly, you need to look at your convictions and you need to rethink. That's
definitely.
the I understand we have to feed our family and and be leaders and be head of the house, but the Lord provides. God provides, and He will not put you in a situation where you can't handle.
I believe it. I believe it. Without getting too specific, do the organizations are they okay with that? Do they kind of backstage, hey man, let's make sure we're not, saying too much of this, saying too much of that? Do they allow you guys, your athletes, to just kind of freely speak your mind when you want to, or when they put
We're
that
allowed to
microphone in
say
your face?
we're allowed to say whatever we want, but they also have their opinions. Like,
Okay.
you've seen Dana White have some interviews where he's like, oh, Jesus is cool and whatever, but you don't have to thank him every time you get up there.
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinion. It's your opinion. That's fine. You don't like what I do. That's okay. But thank God we live in America, the freest country in the
Beautiful.
world.
I love it. I love it. So let's go a little fast forward. Let's speed up to today, where you are now. Um, as I've been following you, what has changed within these last 2 to 3 fights? I feel like when I'm watching you in there lately, it looks like it's a flip of a switch. I mean, you look like a man on fire in there, but you look like you're just waiting and ready for it. What has changed with your mindset now, uh, than what it was previously?
I don't think much has changed, to be honest with you. I think it's more about being healthy.
Okay.
First year and a half I was in the UFC, I had 7 fights and I was 6-1.
Mhm.
I was fighting as much as I could. I was doing the best that I could, and then I started getting injured, and I wasn't paying attention to those injuries, and they really weighed me down. They really pulled me down, and that's just what it is. So I recognize that, and I've tried to deal with it, and being in the desert, metaphorically speaking, it's such a good time to just grow. It's crazy to think about, but like I heard it like this: comfort is a bigger enemy to progress than hardship. So
Okay.
that's basically what it was. I went through hardship, and it allowed me to progress.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's definitely a great way to look at things and kind of put things into perspective. So we got you here. You're all set. You're Kings Anaheim doing great. You're doing great. Your last fight, you looked absolutely spectacular. You chalk that up to your health. Well, when did you actually see the transition? Me personally, growing up, it was a lot of 2-a-days. There were hell weeks. It was a lot of we push our bodies to the limit, on an everyday basis. And I feel like at this point, science is actually making a huge impact as far as your recovery, as far as your mental stability. When did you kind of see that take a little bit more effect in the industry?
With the UFC, I would say in the last 3 years, 4 years, it's really developed tremendously, especially with the UFC Performance Institute. They bring in physical therapists, they bring in strength and conditioning coaches, they bring in some of the best cardiologists, just to understand, what's going on with our bodies as we train, as we prepare. So I would say in the last 3 years, the UFC has really stepped up their game and developed. This is I would say this is a whole new level from them.
I have one of my questions I've been wanting to ask, and I continuously forget to ask. Have you ever had anybody pull out on you?
Yeah, I've few fights.
No,
It's
what is that like mentally? I'm assuming you got 2 to 3 months to prepare for this guy. You're in there. You're waiting to go. I know a lot of it's mental. You're preparing yourself to go to war. What is that like to just find out right away that, hey man, we're not fighting anymore? is it hard to kind of take that switch back to normal?
Nah, I mean, I still have a fight. Normally, I still have a date. They don't change my date. Nothing changes. So I don't really overthink it. Just, okay, it's just time for a fight. Okay, we'll go fight.
It
So
doesn't matter who, yeah.
yeah, it's not that big of a deal for me as long as I have a fight that day. Now, if the whole fight's canceled, that would be much more difficult. So yeah, I don't overthink it. Ideally, I would like to prepare for fight what I prepared for, but you know, that's fighting.
Okay. Is there anything specific you do with your, training as far as just your mindset? Is there anything you're focusing a little bit more on, strength conditioning, or are we working more technique when you're preparing for your next fight?
Technique phase is between after a fight. So after a fight, I go through a more of a technique phase. I focus more on drilling and improving, expanding on what I just went through. Um, when the fight gets closer, it becomes more of a battle situation. I put myself more in battle situations, more grappling, more striking, more actual sparring, live sparring, instead of um, focusing on details and key things. Those should be already with me.
Okay. Now going back to your first fight, I had the opportunity to actually corner a friend of mine for his King of the Cage fight up in Ontario, and one of the main things I took back from it was I've heard stories of the energy of the crowd and people, and we're talking King of the Cage isn't terribly small, but it seemed like there were a lot of people, and I remember waiting behind this really heavy black curtain, just waiting for them to call my friend's name, and I imagine the emotion going through me, and I could feel the energy of the crowd, and I'm waiting to walk out there. What's that like for you as a fighter, especially like I said, going back to your first fight? Did you feel that energy? What was it like? What was going through your head at that moment?
My first fight, I had
We're
my
talking. I'm
family
sorry,
there.
UFC. We're talking UFC, the
Oh,
big show.
UFC.
Yeah, you're out there.
Oh, you know
Crowd
what?
screaming.
Surprisingly, I was one of the first people on the card, so there was not a
Mm,
whole lot of people there. So it
yeah.
was actually really quiet. I just
Okay.
walked out there, danced to my music, and just fought. But my
Okay.
first MMA fight was terrifying because I had sold like 100 tickets. There were so many people and there were people I care about, my family and my friends. So I think there was a little bit more to it. That was the fight that I got the most nervous for. One of the fights that I got most nervous for.
Was it just something you just pushed through? Like I said, as soon as that bell rang, it's like, okay, let's go. We're gonna do this. Are you the type at that moment in life to, it's gonna take you to get popped a few times to realize that, okay, we're in a fist fight now.
I mean, as soon as we touch gloves, fighting for me is it's like a second language. I do it so much. It's not hard to get back into that. But yeah, it threw me off, and I think I expanded a lot of energy because I was so nervous. So it definitely did affect me. But I again, I've done this so much. I was able to kind of overcome that.
Okay, awesome. And that brings us to today, where you're at. You got like I said, the gym up and running. We're preparing. I haven't heard any news. You don't have to say anything about an up and coming fight just yet. Uh, Side question: what is it like dealing with all this with the COVID, and is there any sort of uncertainty of when you're actually going to get out there and fight again?
I don't have a fight. There's nothing. There's nothing scheduled. I've been asking for a fight, and for me, the COVID situation really hasn't been that different because I'm a stay at home kind of guy. I'm an
Okay.
indoor guy, so I've been home or training, and then my training partners they're pretty much the same. They're like, well, we got to keep training, and I was like, yeah. So we've been just doing our thing. We haven't really
Okay.
changed anything.
Well, I'm hoping you get something soon, but I love watching you in there. All right, so we're gonna get to a part where I ask the 10 questions. I ask everybody the same questions. They're a little on the random side. Uh, so let's see. Number one, what's the worst advice somebody's ever given you?
Uh, I would be like, oh, just knock them out.
Just go in there and knock them out. All right, all right. Number two, that's actually something people have a hard time answering. Some of them are actually really quick, and some of them got to think about it a little bit. Number two, if not fighting, and I think we already answered this, then what?
Well, before that, I was trying to be an accountant. I think I was going to school, business management or something like that. So that was it. But now it's different. As I've experienced a little bit more of life now, I'm pretty sure I want to be a missionary.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Number three, dogs or cats?
Dogs, but I also like cats.
Okay. All right. A little on both. Charcoal or propane?
Charcoal.
All the way. Yeah, I got you. Number five, this is a little bit of a deeper question. Do you believe that dreams have a significance in your life?
Yeah, yeah. I don't normally remember my dreams, so when I do, it's normally important.
Okay. All right, cool. Give me your favorite behind the scenes moment. This could be, at some point in your younger career. This could be UFC. You don't have to name any names, but give me your favorite kind of behind the scenes backstage moment.
Behind the scenes moment. One time I was in Brazil. I fought in Brazil, and before I walked out, the stadium's just going crazy. They're stomping their feet. They're screaming, "Ooh, vai morrer, you're gonna die."
Yeah, yeah, I've heard
Uh,
that.
that was one of the scariest things I've ever felt, and every time every time an American guy would walk out, they would start screaming that, and then like if he lost, they would just go crazy, and then he would have to walk back and all bruised up and beat up, and then I was next. So that was one of the moments where that definitely stands out.
I've heard a lot of stories about that fight in front of that crowd. Number seven, you ever seen a ghost?
No.
No, awesome. Eight, what's the best way you deal with failure?
Scripture. I just get into scripture, and scripture always rebuilds me, reforms me.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Number nine, what is your favorite fighter of all time? This is a two-part question. Your favorite fighter of all time, dead or alive, and would you fight him?
Uh, for the longest time, my favorite fighter was Frankie Edgar.
Nice.
He might still be my favorite fighter. I haven't really even thought about it. I've been in the UFC for so long. I stopped thinking who my favorite fighter is. But would I fight him? Man, no. I really would not want to fight him. I'm such a big fan, and I've trained with him a few times, so I definitely would not want to fight him.
Yeah, he getting into excuse me, getting into the sport and kind of paying attention more. His pocket presence was by far like one of the most impressive things to me. Him and BJ Penn, and just being able to stick in the pocket, slip, work off the counters. Extremely impressive to me. Sometimes for me that's more impressive than solid technique, or old school watching Wanderlei just stay in there when there's bombs being thrown at you, and just being able to stick around and just stay in that range to land your strikes. Number 10, pineapples on pizza. Do they belong? Do they not?
Yeah, yeah. I like pizza. Pizza is probably one of my favorite foods, so I'll eat anything on a pizza.
All right. So look, I know I said 10, but I've kind of been thinking about this, and I want to add one more because I think this is important. I think there's a small debate in the MMA community, boxing and whatnot. Your hook. Are we going here or are we going here?
So it depends. If I'm throwing a long hook, I would go with the first option, and yeah. If I'm going for a short power hook, I would go with the latter.
Were you taught a specific way when you first got into it?
Yeah, I think I was taught this way.
I was the same, yeah. But I love the answers of situational. I think it's most of the stuff is situational. But all right, so those are the 10, right? We're gonna end it with you. So you got the floor. Let the fans know what you're into, what you want them to take a look at, what you got coming up, anything you want to shout out. Let them know where to find it, how to find it. It's all yours, brother.
Social media. I mean, if you can spell my name, you can figure it out. I'm not big social media guy, but I would say Instagram is where I'm most active. And as far as what I want to get out there, I'm not really interested in a legacy or whatever you want to call it, or history. My whole life purpose is just to be an arrow pointing to Jesus. So that's the simplest way I can put it. I don't need recognition. If I do get it, I want to send it that way because that's where it all comes from.
Awesome, awesome, beautiful, sir. Absolutely beautiful. I thank you again, again as somebody who's into the sport, and to be able to just reach out and talk to you like you have, and for you to be such an amazing person and human being altogether. It means a lot for me. Mostly, probably means a lot for the fans as well. So we love you. I thank you so much for coming out. I wish you the very best. Hope we can get a fight soon and see you out there performing again, brother.
Sounds good, bro. Take
All
care.
right, man. You take care too. All right.
Bye bye.